So my name's
Must be back.
my name's Eric Lindsay. I'm the director of student recruitment. I'm here at Shepherd's College. We're located up in Union Grove, Wisconsin, and so we're a 3-year post-secondary ed program for students with IDD. So, Liz?
Yeah. So welcome everybody. My name is Elizabeth Potter. I'm the Outreach Development Specialist at PACE at National Louis University. We're located downtown Chicago. And so we're super excited to be able to have you here and really start the conversation of what does it look like to prepare students for a post-secondary program like ours. So we're excited that you could join us. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, we have a chat feature available to you guys. If you want to speak, since it's a smaller group, we kind of expected that. We can go with questions that way. If you want to just chat them, if you don't feel like talking, that's fine too. We're happy to end. Andrew is there, and then he's back. Welcome back, Andrew.
Sorry about that. As soon as I hit everybody join, my computer crashed, and so. But I am so glad that you all are here and able to meet with us and hear what we have to say about getting students ready for post-secondary programs. And so hopefully we went through some introductions right off the bat, but I just wanted to let you know, my name's Drew Burles. I'm the assistant director for the RISE program over at Judson University. And we're a 2-year program that is geared toward independent living skills and vocational skills, all within the realm of our Christian institution of Judson University. And so we're a 2-year certificate program where our students live on campus. They have a college experience while they're learning those independent living skills. And that's just a little bit about what our program is. If you want more information, you can surely contact me directly. But as we talk about some different things today, I'll be the one that's kind of monitoring our chat and kind of leading the conversation with some of the questions that were already submitted. And so we'll go ahead and just go around and have the other programs here introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about their program before we get into some of the questions that we have. If you have any questions that we aren't answering or you have one that comes to mind as we're talking, go ahead and put that in the chat. You can feel free. We are a small group, so if you do have a question, you can unmute yourself and ask it verbally as well. But if you'd rather just put it in the chat, feel free to do that, and I'll go ahead and be monitoring that conversation. We can go ahead. Tim, you're the first one on my screen, so I'll go ahead and have you start us off with some introductions.
So if you aren't familiar with ELSA, we're the 4-year college experience program at Elmhurst College. And by the way, for those of you, Jill, I see you in there, local, tomorrow we're going to become Elmhurst University. So this is the last day. Well, actually, this doesn't say college on it, so I get to keep this t-shirt, but tomorrow I get to bring out the university t-shirt. So we're pretty excited about that. The new gates are going to be unveiled tomorrow and stuff like that if you live in Elmhurst like Jill does. So that's kind of exciting. That's not really going to affect our program too much in terms of how we do it. We are still kind of focused on a 4-year college experience, being integrated into the college environment, living on campus with the ultimate goal of becoming employed and better able to live independent at the end. Some unique features with us, if you haven't heard, is we do have the ELSA Plus track where our students can take college classes to sort of augment the program. They can do it not for credit and have that augmentation affect their career goals with ELSA, or potentially could take those classes for credit and maybe have the possibility of working towards a degree program. And then I do have a program we call the Advantage program, where I have degree-seeking students at Elmhurst who need a little bit more support than what's typically available, and will take one class with ELSA while they're pursuing their degree program, one per semester, until they're kind of comfortable. So we kind of meet our students in different places at the campus, and we have students who live on campus and students who commute. That's sort of the general idea of the program. I think most of you have seen me speak or heard about this before, but if you want to get more in depth about the program, obviously this is not our admissions presentation. We're going to get into the admission requirements and such, but I'll save that for the discussion. Elizabeth?
Oh yeah, thank you. I feel like you gave me the baton. So I introduced myself again. I'm Elizabeth Potter. I am the Outreach Development Specialist at PACE at National Louis University. You know, we're what you'll discover about all of our programs is that there's many things that we have similar, and certainly the college experience and the importance of that. You'll see different elements that contribute to that. What I can say, maybe highlight some of the things that are different, is we're a 3-year college experience program. So our students are individuals that would perhaps find it challenging or difficult to be able to navigate traditional college education, whether with additional support or not. So our students are looking to have the skills necessary to be able to live independently. And so a college degree is not a part of that program. Once our students complete our program, so again, it's a 3-year certificate program, and once they complete with over 1,000 hours of employment experience, they do have the ability to continue on with us. And so we've heard from our families quite often, so once you graduate, what happens next? And so we do offer 2 additional programs called PACE Ahead as well as PACE Beyond. And so both of these programs are available to students who have graduated from the program. So PACE Ahead students can live with us for 2 additional years. They're not ready to fly the coop. Sorry, like a storm cloud over my head. There you go. So they can stay with us for 2 additional years. So they're living with us. They're able to continue to use all of our services, our job coach, our employment services, our life skills instructors, and then PACE Beyond. And so that's beyond living into life. And so they live on their own, and our families are able to utilize all of our services as well on an as-need basis. So as they feel the need, whether or not they are going up for a job interview, or they're going for their annual review and they want a job coach with them to assist with that, or they want a job coach to go to their new hire orientation with them. So we're able to assist families inside of our partnership with them, not only once they make the decision to be a part of PACE community, but really moving forward in life to continue their success. So we'll talk about more again, right? This is not a overview of the complete program, but just to kind of highlight some of the differences that PACE offers. And so now, Eric, it's your turn.
Awesome, thanks. So yeah, again, my name's Eric. I'm the Director of Student Recruitment here at Shepherd's. We are a 3-year accredited college program, and we're not attached to any larger university like the other programs are. We're just our own college right here in Union Grove. And so if you don't know where Union Grove is, if you take 94 up into Wisconsin and get off on Highway 11, we're about 15 minutes west of Racine. So that can be helpful. But yeah, we do life skills and vocational training. And so one of our distinctives is that we have 3 specific majors that we're training our students in, and it's horticulture, culinary arts, and technology. And then they also do a handful of life skills as they go through the 3 years with us. And then they live on campus in a dorm, and then a hall, and then an apartment. So it's kind of our residential tiered model that they go through, gaining more and more independence and responsibility along the way. And then in the evenings, we'll do a bunch of fun stuff out in the community, and we'll also do Special Olympics and clubs and other things of that sort as well. And so, yeah, ours is a 3-year program, or we're considered a specialized program since we're only serving students with intellectual and developmental disabilities on our campus. So that's the 30-second overview of Shepherd's College.
Great, thank you, Eric. So today, our primary goal with this educator fair is to talk about preparing students for post-secondary opportunities. And so all 4 of us are post-secondary opportunities. We did have an additional one who was unable to attend today at Bethesda College. And so we will be able to get some information to contact her if you have specific information that you want to know about Bethesda that way. But for the 4 of us, we want to talk a little bit about what it takes to get students prepared to come to programs like ours, what we're specifically looking for within our programs, and how we're a little bit different from each other. As Elizabeth was saying, we serve the same populations, students with disabilities, and so we're very similar in our approach that way, but we all have our own nuances and differences. And so we want you as educators to be able to help your students find what the next steps are for them. And so having the best information from each of our programs is our goal for today. And so as I was saying, I'm going to be going through some questions that were already submitted. If you have any additional questions you'd like us to cover, you can put them in the chat, or we'll have some time where you can unmute yourself and talk with us that way. We have scheduled out about 90 minutes for our time here. We don't have to fill up that whole time. We want to be sensitive of your time and make sure that you're able to do everything you need to do as well. So if we don't go that full time, just so you know, we may not be extending that way. As we start our conversation, I'd love for us to just kind of talk about what our entrance requirements are for each of our institutions, and then maybe what some of the skills do we expect students to have when they're coming into our program already. And so let's just start with PACE. So Elizabeth, if you can answer some of those questions. What are the entrance requirements for you? And then what do you expect students to come into the program with? What skills do you expect them to come in with?
Wonderful. Thank you, Drew. So the entrance requirements to apply for PACE at National Louis University is being between the ages of 18 and 28. So 28 is certainly on the older range of our students, and typically by the time they're 28, they're completing the program. So somebody older than that, since we're residential based, we may not be the best fit. So between that age group, we're also looking for our students to either have completed high school or have a certificate of completion. And so a high school diploma is not required to submit your application at PACE. There's additional admissions documents that we would be looking at, but really the two things we're looking for is really ensuring that the family and the student are both committed to living life independently. So we don't have any additional requirements in terms of minimum grade score or taking the SAT or ACT or any other entrance exams. What we're really looking for is a family, a student that's motivated to live independently. So that would be our baseline, because everything else will show up inside of the interview process to ensure that what they're looking for in a post-secondary program is what we're able to provide and support. So those are the main things. In terms of what we're looking for students as they are through the admissions as they're going through the admissions process, we are in downtown Chicago, and we are not a therapeutic program. So we're really looking for a level of maturity in terms of self-management, and so on some level in terms of emotional regulation. So what ways do they manage stress to ensure that it is something that would work with inside of our residential environment? The other piece is really being able to communicate in a way, and whatever way that is, to be able to communicate what they're experiencing. So we do have 2 licensed counselors on staff, as well as student advisors where they can talk to be able to process. But really what we're looking for is individuals that can communicate what they need, and they have the emotional regulation ability to be able to manage their stress levels. Everything else we're going to be able to provide them in the program.
Great, thank you. Let's move on to Tim. Why don't you go ahead and answer that same question? What are some of the admission requirements, and what skills do you expect students to come in with?
Very similar to what you saw at PACE. We're 18 to 28. We're always concerned with reading levels. Reading and comprehension is pretty important to us. So we generally look for somebody who's reading and doing math and comprehending at about the 3rd grade as a minimum. Probably an average, my students are reading and doing math and whatnot between 6th and 8th grade on average across the program, with a lot of variation on that. And then we're always looking for that sort of emotional independence to be able to navigate a campus and those kinds of things. I think it's going to be across the board in here that we're also not a therapeutic program. So they need to have the independence to be able to kind of navigate getting to classes and those kinds of things. We provide supports. Our students who live on campus have life coaches. So there's definitely some nets in place, but we're really working towards seeing our students have the independence to kind of get around. Now, our campus is all centrally located in Elmhurst in one kind of main area. So, you know, it's kind of getting comfortable with the campus and getting around, those kinds of things. But when we have sort of extremes in depression or extremes in those kinds of things, we're not quite as equipped because we don't have 24/7, adult supervision in the residence halls and so forth. We do have our own specialized trained students who live on the floors with our students, but they are part of our general population. And the only other kind of weird caveat that's unique to us, I think, is for our students who live on campus, we ask that they are their own personal guardian. So they can have a plenary of partial guardianship, and parents can hang on to financial or health guardianship, but our students who live on campus need to be able to make their own yes and no decisions and adhere to the rules of the road, as it were. So we usually ask for at least a partial personal guardianship for our students. And in terms of the admission process, a lot of you probably been through it with us. We do have a couple of letter recommendation forms. We usually ask the families to have you fill out, teachers or counselors to fill out kind of a ratings form to kind of get your take on there. And then we ask for the IEP and the most recent psychological evaluation as part of that for our admissions paperwork. Kind of look at all that stuff and then bring the family in for an admission interview. And then if they want to live on campus, we have a second housing screening where they meet with our psychologist and our housing coordinator in the program to kind of go over a lot of that sort of, as it would be related to guardianship. And a lot like what Elizabeth said, we're kind of looking for that somewhat maturity, independence, ability, which is why we're a fan of transition. We don't require our students to go through transition to get into the program. We take students directly out of high school, but it overall, in the spend time, we'll look at an evaluation or meet with a family and kind of like, you should probably do some more transition, and we'll recommend that sometimes. So we're, it doesn't mean they have to complete transition and be in it until they're 22, but we see more success with those students who have, generally speaking, lots of exceptions because, all of our students are unique flowers.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. One thing I wanted to point out is that Tim, as opposed to the other programs here, ELSA has both a commuter program as well as a residential program. Is that correct, Tim?
Yeah, that's right. It's not required to live on campus. So if the guardianship is an issue, or the student, you feel like the student can handle the academics but not the living piece, that could be made available later. We can ease in part-time. We were pretty flexible with that. And I should have mentioned, somebody asked about the students need to be independent with medication management. At our program, yes, they do. We don't provide medication at ELSA.
Yeah. And that I'll speak on this question, and I'll hand it over to Eric to speak a little bit as well. For us over at RISE, we are similar to ELSA and PACE. We have a 18 to 25 age range that we go through. We do find it beneficial for a lot of our students to go through transition programs before coming into ours. But again, it's not a requirement. Sometimes we'll even recommend that for families who have applied, and we may say, we think that your student might need a little extra time in their transition program before attending ours. That's something that we've done in the past. Our program does require a diagnosed intellectual disability to be a part of ours. Our curriculum is designed specifically for students with intellectual disabilities, targeting that kind of IQ range that we have there. And so that is a requirement for our program as well. We do about third or fourth grade reading, writing level. We have students participating in traditional undergraduate courses on our campus. And so in order to be able to take some of the information away from that, we find that third to fourth grade reading level being a necessity there. And then a strong desire to live on a college campus. That's a big part of our program, is to want that college experience. And so that is one of our kind of requirements within us. And we get through that with parent interviews and student interviews and different things like that throughout the admission process. In terms of skills that we ask students to come in with, basic technology skills. All of our students need to have a cell phone for us to do some of our safety protocols. We have a Life 360 app that we use with our students to make sure that we know that they're staying safe. Basic computer skills is helpful in that as well. They're not required to have a computer. We give all of our students an iPad when they come into our program. And so having some skills to go with that is helpful. We found that to be extremely true within this time of us needing to shift our curriculum to be more digital. It's super helpful when a student has that type of skill there. Some self-advocacy skills is what we're looking for. To be able to say why they're feeling a certain way, or not necessarily why, but that they are feeling a certain way and they need to address that. We'll help them to cope with social situations and different things like that, but we need to have a little bit of self-advocacy within the student as well. Along with that, we ask for emotional self-regulation. Like the others, we're not a therapeutic program, and so we really need to be able to have a student that can identify their emotions and to work through some of that with our help. We have counselors on our campus that any university student can take advantage of, including RISE students, but we'll help facilitate those conversations, but we need them to be able to identify some of those things. And then we do have resident advisors who help our students within the dorm rooms. We have advisors that help them within classrooms and advisors that help them at their internship sites, but we don't have supervision of our students 24/7. And so we need our students to be able to have a sense of autonomy so that they can have good general hygiene, whether that's with a checklist. We can help them to give reminders, but for them to be able to do those daily hygienic tasks themselves, keep track of their belongings, the ability to navigate a college campus independently. We'll give them some assistance with that, but ultimately handing that off for them to be able to navigate themselves. And then some type of time management is what we're looking for as well, to be able to say, I can get up on time, I can get to my class on time, and I have a general idea about due dates and saying, okay, this assignment's due on Monday, I need to have it done by Monday. Those are kind of the things that we're really looking for students coming into our program. Eric, did you have, you want to answer that question as well?
Yeah. So for us, same thing, 18 or older have completed high school. We don't have an age cap. Most of our students are in their younger 20s, just based on being a college program and transition, as the others were mentioning. But we don't have an age cap with that. And our admissions process is that for the paperwork, it's similar to what Tim was saying, where we have our own application, then we have some reference forms that the student fills out. And then we also request their most recent IEP and psych eval. We prefer to have those within the last 2 to 4 years, and then their transcripts as well. And as far as the admissions process goes, well, until COVID happened, we would have them do an overnight visit for 2 days with us and just experience what it's like to be a student. They would do math and reading assessments with us. And then a mixture of the paper trail plus their visit on campus would be reviewed together by our application review team to determine the student's acceptance. Moving forward, we're doing that overnight opportunity in a virtual way. And so our staff are actually having their last day today. So moving forward for the summer and next year, we're going to be revisiting what that looks like. But inevitably, it'll be a paper trail, all the paperwork, and then doing our virtual visit with us. As far as math and reading levels go, we'd probably be pretty similar. We used to say 2nd and 3rd grade math and reading level, but I also don't want that to deter a student from applying to our program. We do serve students from a wide range of ability levels. And so our main thing is we're very career focused. Where can they identify keywords and key symbols to be able to work in the job field? Those are some things we're looking at, being very career driven. And then as far as living on campus goes, the question about medications, we have a full-time RN and a full-time LPM within our nursing department. And so all of our staff, we're a 24/7 staff program. So we have staff who are here during the day, of course, in classes, and then our evening staff, and then staff who sleep overnight as well. The goal is if a student cannot pass medication, the goal is to get them to that point. If they can't, our staff in our nursing department would be able to handle that as well. And then also, as mentioned by the others, hygiene is important. So as can they shower by themselves, brush their teeth, those morning and evening routines. We'll do verbal prompts for sure. We're all about that and assisting students, but we're not going to be doing anything beyond that with our students. I think that's about it with our admissions criteria. So, yeah.
Great, thanks, Eric. I did want to also mention the question that was in the chat about medication management for our program. We do ask that our students are able to manage their medications appropriately, whether that's we can help them to give reminders or make sure that they set timers or however they need to do that. We'll help them to manage that, but ultimately that responsibility would be on them. And we talk with the families about that as well. A lot of our incoming students are still working on making sure that they have a good system in place for that. And so we'll partner with the families to help with that. We did have a student who was changing medication and actually needed injections for that. We were able to work with our wellness center. We do have a nurse who's on campus 4 days a week and a doctor who comes once a week. And so on those 4 days, that student would go to the nurse and the nurse would administer the injections. And then that particular student would go home on weekends and the family would administer them. And so if there is a case like that, we can work with the families to help with that. But generally, we would like the medication management to be the responsibility for the student. I know, Elizabeth, I don't know if you wanted to add anything in response to that question.
Yeah, thank you. So everything that you said, Drew, so it's very similar for us as well. We do expect students to be independent in the medical management and follow the scaffolding approach. So some students perhaps need a reminder from their resident advisor in the morning to actually take it, or perhaps a medical case that then has the different alarms on it on the phones, and then we do daily check-ins to ensure that it's on track to be able to support the student in independently taking the any medicine that they're taking. So
great. And so as we look at the different skills that are needed coming into a program, what would you say the priority is for you? Would it be those functional independence skills or the academic skills in those sides? And how would you suggest the transition program educators and special educators within their system help our students develop those skills?
I can speak into that a little bit to begin.
Sure.
So at Shepherd's, academics and functional skills, they're both equally important in their own ways. But we've already talked about hygiene kind of being a baseline, I think, for most of us. But beyond that, something important for our students and the way that our program is modeled as they go for us through the dorm, the hall, and the apartment, we have responsibility charts. And it's broken down by the kitchen area, the living area, their room, and their bathroom. And they start out by doing small tasks at a time throughout the week. And then as they go to the hall, they'll do more. The apartment, they'll do more. And so for us, what we always tell families and educators is to start by doing some sort of regimented schedule, whether it's starting with small life skills tasks at a time of taking care of your own area. Those are things that are really important, especially as they're coming into Shepherd's and they're going to be doing a lot in teams to begin, but then throughout the 3 years, slowly taking more and more ownership. We used to call them chores, and now we call them responsibilities, because there's more ownership for our students when they hear that they have a responsibility rather than a chore, which can have a negative connotation to it. So that's kind of just a basic answer on functional skills. And then academics are important as well. But with us, our academics with math and reading, we don't actually teach math and reading specifically, but we have life skills classes that are very practical to life skills and social skills where reading and math are involved. Our math classes more so have to do with money management. So things like, we have a Dairy Queen and the Subway across the street, and so we'll do assignments where we'll get a menu and sit down with students and go through a budget. How much money do you have? What can you afford? If you spend this much on Monday, what will you have left on Friday? Things like that. We're not really doing math beyond money management and finances with our student, because we want that to be practical skills that they're going to take with them. So as far as academics and functional skills, that would be a little bit of insight that I would have in regards to the way our program runs.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I know with the RISE program, the priority for us in terms of what skills would we need for our students to have coming in would definitely be the functional independence. The academic skills are important in terms of helping our students to participate within the environments of the college campus. But like Shepherd's was, what Eric was talking about, is most of our academic skills are going to be focused on those life skills as well. And so budgeting, money management, the reading and the writing, we incorporate that within our curriculum for our RISE classes, but we're not so much focused on proper grammar in those things and grading it based on that, but we're more grading it based on content and understanding of the material that we're talking about. We do, as I was saying earlier, we have our students they participate in traditional undergraduate classes. They take that as an audit. Our students don't get any credit towards college classes because our program specifically serves those with intellectual disabilities. They would not otherwise be qualified to receive college credit. And so our program, we audit traditional undergraduate classes, and the purpose for them auditing, the purpose of them participating there is to help them understand how to function within a traditional undergraduate setting, to function within a classroom with typically developing peers. And so that's our main purpose and goal within that. And so that academic skill, it is important in order for them to participate, but it's really not at the forefront of what we prioritize in terms of what we're teaching and what we think student needs to come into the program with. Tim, Elizabeth, did you want to add to any of that?
I did. I don't want to, but Elizabeth, you're welcome to go first if you want. Too late. I'm going. So I should have mentioned as part of our admission requirements the thing about wanting to come to college. I always think that's sort of a given, but it is worth kind of reiterating that the desire to come, the students' desire to come. We did turn somebody down this year who clearly did not want to come to college. He just wants to get a job, doesn't want to, the whole interview, he was just sort of like, nah, but his parents really, really wanted this for the kid. And in the perfect world where the parents want that, we get where they're coming from, but the kid won't succeed if they don't want to do it. And then in terms of, the academics do matter with us a fair bit, especially where it comes to reading. It doesn't have to, we're not like a brick wall with that third grade thing. It just seems to be a good place to draw a line in the sand. But we really like to see that they can read and they do have some comprehension skills, because that affects how we do everything else and opportunities within the program. So that's important to us. We still work on those skills, and we do have some math. And then depending on the student's interest and what they have access to across the board in the college, all of that matters, but it starts the most with the reading, because so much of the job piece in the program is the sort of virtual job hunting process, which is email, and you'll be able to do communications quickly and those kinds of things, and spontaneity and stuff like that. So all of that sort of feeds into that in terms of what we're kind of looking for. And then that navigation piece too, that's a harder one to sort of gauge, and there's a lot of leeway. The student wants to be here, there's probably going to be more chance for that student than the student who's just sort of indifferent or not interested or whatever. But they need to be able to find their way around campus, or at least have capacity to learn that within a few weeks, those kinds of things, because we don't have aids. We're really trying to build independence and so forth with our program.
Yes, so thank you, Tim. So many of the things that Tim said, very similar in that, again, there is a different student who will move through many things when they really want to live on their own. They want to live independently. And so they'll really continue to work towards whatever skill sets that are necessary. So that's really important. And like Tim, we've had families where the family wanted it and the student not so much. And so, just perhaps not a student that's going to be, that's going to have the level of success that's possible inside of our program. So we would defer someone like that. As for our classes, so many of my colleagues have talked about reading levels and things like that, and we certainly have a range of reading levels that our students are in. However, we do have students who have lower reading levels than that, and so where we will work with them on a virtual checklist, and what does that actually look like? Again, applying in real life as a residential program, and in real life, what does it actually look like to problem solve throughout the program. And so we'll do money management where they are actually working with cash and not whatever Apple Wallet is like on their phone. We'll take them grocery shopping to ensure that they know what is it like to live within a budget, and what is it like to be able to purchase their breakfast and their lunch within a certain number of dollars, and to be able to budget what life looks like. So all of our academics are really wrapped around what does it look like in life whether it is problem solving when you don't know the answer to, who do I ask for the next task at work, to this is how much money I have and how do I do all the things I want to do this week and what does that look like? So time management and budgeting and really all the things when you take a look at the skills you have in your own life and balancing priorities and who should you speak to, and the way that you talk to your friends is not necessarily the way that you talk to your colleagues. All of those things, we are there with them within the 3-year time period, and all of our courses are focused inside of that. So, but not so much of the academic piece, because again, they're not going for a degree, they're going for the life skills necessary to be successful.
Great, thank you, Elizabeth. As we were touching on a little bit of what our curriculum kind of looks like, and so if you want a full in-depth on what each of our curriculum is like, you can feel free to reach out to each of us specifically, but I'd love for us to just kind of touch on what our curriculum really does look like. What does a post-secondary program look like for our students? And so I'll go ahead and start. You guys can be thinking about your.
Excuse me, Andrew. It would be. Thank you, everyone. I just had a related question to the academic skill piece, and that's the use of assistive technology. Do our students using text-to-speech, speech-to-text, things like that to compensate for some of those maybe more traditional reading and writing skills, and is that appropriate on your campuses?
Yeah, I can answer that for me, and then we can go through the others. For the RISE program, we have had students who use the speech-to-text and some other adaptive technology that they have in their own, just based on their own accommodations that they need. And so we really take an accommodation approach to that. And so we'll talk with our faculty about what is appropriate for our students to be using and what they can use in order to complete the tasks that they need to complete. And so for us, it's really about understanding what you need to do in order to complete what you need to complete. And so whether that's to complete the job that you're in your internship for, if it's to complete the assignment that you have, or to communicate appropriately with the people around you, we really want to help our students find ways to understand what they need to use in order to get those things done. And so we're not going to necessarily limit a student to say, you can't use that piece of technology in order to complete this assignment, because ultimately when they're out of our program, they're going to need that in order to do that. And so that's how we approach that in particular. Anybody else wants to add into that, feel free.
Yeah, we're pretty flexible in trying to work individually with the student based on what their needs are. We have a relationship with Read and Write Gold where someone had purchased that software package for us. So we tend to use that a lot for folks who do better with listening than reading, for example, or talk to text. We're big fans of a lot of Apple products. Are pretty simple to use in terms of speaking using Siri and or pressing control, I forget the command exactly on a Mac to speak to text. So, each student's sort of different. We don't give them their own iPads though, Andrew, and I understand you're going to give us all iPads for being at this webinar today. I like making promises for my competitors. But whatever we can do, we also, with our Access Disability Coordinator, in terms of recording lectures, we're big. We don't necessarily require everyone to have a cell phone, but it's strongly encouraged because we're using Office 365 and using Microsoft Office and using a lot of these technology tools. We start working on that from the word go. So whatever adaptations we need to make with our students, or if they're more comfortable with PC or they're more comfortable, we're pretty flexible with that.
Yeah, just to add to that, so at PACE, our students do receive an iPad as well as Fitbit watches to be able to assist them in health and wellness.
So free Fitbits for everyone too. Good, thank you, Elizabeth. That's awful nice of you.
Right, important for them to know heart rate and what does that look like, right? So, but so many of our students are using assistive technology prior to coming to us. And so, whatever that they've used that they've found success with, we're going to take a look like, how do we incorporate that? And so it really is providing what what assistance is needed to be able to assist a student where they're at. So exactly what Drew said, we're not going to be with them. That's the whole point, for them to be able to be on their own and to be able to navigate independently, writing that email to their boss or sending that text message to an employer or a coworker. And so whatever technology is going to assist them in being confident and being able to do something and get what they need, we are absolutely going to incorporate that.
Well, Tim, I hate to say this, but all of our students get Chromebooks, so
Nobody wants those.
you'll be, sorry, not as cool as an iPad, I guess. No, but all of our students get Chromebooks. And then when it comes to adaptive technology, absolutely, similar to other programs, we'll individualize it to help students get, what they need to be successful within the program. And at Shepherd's, each student has an advisor who's kind of their main point of contact, and also the main point of contact kind of between the student and the parents. And so as they're going throughout the year, if we notice things that a student's going to need to be more successful, that's going to be a conversation that we're going to have with the student and the parents right away to ensure that, they have what's appropriate for them to be in our program and interact in the classes and in the student life setting as well.
Great. Well, yeah, as we were talking about the different types of skills that we're looking for in students, I'd just love for us to touch on a little bit about what do we teach in our programs, so that educators who are here can know what our programs are offering to their students. And so I'll go ahead and start, and you guys can follow me. But for the RISE program, we have 4 different categories that our classes fall into. And so the first one is independent living skills, and so that's going to talk about cooking, cleaning, all those different things, personal hygiene, talk about how to, sorry, I just looked at my next one. I'll just skip on that because I'm blanking on that. Sorry about that. The next one is person-centered planning. And so those kind of go together because we want to focus on what the student really desires in their future path. And so we work with them to self-advocate on what they want to do. And so we have concentrations within our program that focus in on, we have 6 different concentrations that our students can pick from. And this is really looking at, okay, what are they interested in? What are their skills? What things do they want to do in the future? And then we gear their internships and traditional classes that they audit to those specific concentrations. And so all of that is within our person-centered planning curriculum. And so we work with them within their first semester to self-advocate what they would like to focus on for the rest of their time in our program. We also do personal fitness and wellness. And so we make sure that our students understand what it's like to eat healthy, what that means, and make good food choices. But then also we have specific times for them to go to the fitness center and to work out, scheduled times within their day for them to go and keep their bodies healthy. We put that as an emphasis in our program. And then we also focus on professional skills, talking about how to prepare for the work environment, what places they would want to go to, and then ultimately we start helping them to look at jobs that they would want to pursue after our program. Somebody in the chat was asking about what the 6 concentrations are. We have business and entrepreneurship. We do Christian ministries, creative arts, which can be either visual, instrumental, or vocal for our students. We have education, health and wellness, and then math and technology. And so our very first semester is geared toward figuring out which of those 6 our students would like to concentrate in. And then that can change if their interests change throughout the year, but that kind of focuses in on where we would want to put them on their on-campus and off-campus internships and what types of traditional classes they'd like to go into. So that's just a very brief overview of what we kind of teach in our program. And if you have any specific questions on that, feel free when we send out our contact information to reach out to me and I can answer any of those for you. I'll just direct it toward Tim and he can answer that a little bit for ELSA.
You bet. I distracted him by texting my address for my iPad Pro with a pencil, if you please. Thanks. So ELSA, we tend to be in 3 areas. It's really 4, but 3 sounds nicer. But academics and career exploration are kind of our biggest umbrella. And we kind of think of it as sort of, like they have 6 concentrations. We have sort of 3 tenets that sort of guide the way we do our curriculum. So academics and career exploration, independent living skills, and social recreational skills. And a lot of the social recreational stuff, while we do have some social communication classes and those things in the first year or 2, a lot of that is more on life in campus, living on the dorms, joining clubs. We require our students to go to 3 to 5 activities per week. They're required to join a club on campus, and maybe more than one, depending on how social they are, and kind of get involved in the campus life right away. So that sort of lives under that umbrella. The curriculum is going to have a lot with the independent living. So that's the social communication. There is a healthy living skills class, which is more of the physical fitness. And then there's a whole series of courses in financial smarts, which is budgeting and dealing with money. And I think someone else had already talked about dealing with cash. We do a lot of that too, but then it levels up every year. Into the last year, we're talking about rents, and we even get in the stock market stuff because we have a financial wizard guy who teaches those series of courses for our program. Then the big thing is going to be in the career piece. So the career piece starts with sort of career exploration, and then there's also a social and community class, or community and citizenship class, that deals with kind of giving back and volunteering and working in the communities, and they work together to sort of build skills towards moving off campus. And that's internships, job interviewing, shadowing, all that kind of stuff as we go further in the program. And in the latter 2 years, a lot of their time in our curriculum is going to be built around actual getting experience either on campus or off, in terms of, they have classes that are just internship classes. We try to get our students into at least 4 internships so we can help it throughout their process. Some of those may just be on campus jobs early on. Kind of depends on the skill sets and interests of the students. Like all of us, we are all working with very individualized populations, and we're all fairly small programs, so we can be a little unique in how we do that. And then there's electives, and the electives tend to have a lot of that gen ed feel that college has, and that's going to be like, there's an investigation in science class. There's the Healthy Living 2 is more of a gym class where it's learning the health center and working out and those kinds of things. I teach a speech class, a speech theater class, so it's a little bit more fun. The communication piece of it is more towards professional presentations and how everybody's going to be stuck in a Zoom box for their future, but we do it through fun and theater and those kinds of things as well. We've done video game design classes, we've done art classes. Every year we kind of offer something a little bit different in the curriculum. And then of course, our students have access to college classes that may cater to very specific interests. We had a recent alum get a certificate of completion in graphic design. He did several art classes throughout his time at the college. We had someone else do that with business classes. Other students have done it with education and English classes. Another guy did it with Spanish. So there's a lot of unique individualization available through our access to Elmhurst.
Great. So again, what you're hearing is very similar. We're really focusing on, all of our programs are focusing on those independent living skills, the employment piece. The way that we have it structured out is our students start off with us 2 days a week in functional academic classes, so Mondays and Wednesdays. And there is my new adopted dog, wants to say hello. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, from the very beginning, they go into an internship. And that internship will really be determined on one of our partnership sites if it's available, but also what the student's interested in. So they get to explore, oh, I thought I'd like that. Well, that's not what I thought I'd like, right? So everything that we experience on our first day on the job, on our first job, going, wow, this is not what I thought it was. And so they get their feet in immediately. And so you want to think about the functional academics as the conversation piece, the discussion piece, and then everything else around the program is then them experiencing that conversation in life. And so we'll have that money management, and then throughout that week, they are spending the money they budgeted on their groceries. They're spending the money on the activity that they have on Saturday, or they're spending money on long-term goal in terms of savings. or their social planning. So we have a social skills class, and so they're going to do a mind map. You know, how do you get agreement on everybody wanting to do the same thing? And what is it going to cost, and how long is it going to take to get there, and what am I supposed to wear when I get there? So all of those pieces that go along, and then the Saturday activity is then built upon that exercise that they did in class. And so then the health and wellness functional class that they'd have on Mondays and Wednesdays, as they learn about heart rate, they would then in the health and wellness go to the fitness facility with the resident advisors or staffs and look, you know, go to the treadmill or decide to go for running or go for a walk, whatever that it is, to see what does it take to get to that healthy heart rate. So it really is the conversation in those functional academic classes on those Mondays and Wednesdays, you know, talking about what does it look like for something healthy, and then the actual living of creating the purchasing the groceries and then the food prep. So that's how our program is structured.
And if my Fitbit could be purple, I appreciate that.
It's a popular color.
So here at Shepherd's, we have our core academics, then we have our vocational training. And so some of our core academics are classes like communications, independent learning skills, daily living skills, intro to computers, applied technology, money management, employment readiness, health class, and there's a long list more, but that's just kind of a handful. And then we have our vocational training, and I mentioned our 3 majors. So we do culinary arts, horticulture, and technology. Now the way that works all 3 years is that students come in their first year, and they're going to be taking a handful of our life skills, our core classes to begin. They'll do an intro to culinary arts, horticulture, and technology in their first semester. When they come back their second semester, they will then have declared the major that they would like to go in and continue that all 3 years. Now their second year, they spend about half the amount of time in class in core classes that continue to year 2. The other half is going to be in their vocational class that they've already declared. Year 3, Monday through Thursday, they do internships either on campus or in the, and Fridays is their 3rd year classes. And so you kind of go from doing a lot of life skills at the beginning, and then as you go through the 3 years, it becomes more and more vocational focused for the students. And also what they learn in their life skills class, they are then going to be living out in the living areas, whether it's the dorms, the halls, the apartments. And with our different majors, what students get when they graduate with us, so our curriculum is backed by it's accredited through the Council on Occupational Education. So they're an accreditor that credits a lot of different programs around the nation and some associate programs as well. But what they're getting when they graduate is that they are now certified through our accreditor to work in that job field. And then that qualifies them, you know, for a job in that field, and we'll work with them to find employment in that area. So that's one of our distinctives there, just being with the 3 very specific vocations that we teach here at Shepherd's.
Great. And then with that, Eric, I know that because of those certifications, it'd be good for the educators to know this, because of that particular, you being able to be accredited in that way, your students do qualify for some aid in that as well financially. Is that correct?
Right, yeah, so our full accreditation, that opens up the door for students for full FAFSA if they have a diploma from high school. So grants, loans, and federal work study. Thanks for bringing that up. That's one of our biggest pieces that opens up the door for our students. Not only what they get when they graduate, but how it can help them also pay for the program as well.
Yeah. And so the other 3 programs, myself, ELSA, and PACE, we are certified comprehensive transition programs. And so we do also qualify for federal aid in that way. However, because our students are not degree seeking, they do not qualify for student loans. And so they can qualify for grants through FAFSA. But they would not qualify for student loans that way. And so just so you can know that those are additional opportunities for aid in finances like that. We did have a question come in that talks about, can any of us talk to some available data we have on students and their achieving employment after graduation? I'll speak really quickly on that. We are in our 4th year of our program. And so we're actually only a year out now from our first graduating class. And so we're still collecting that data on our program specifically. I can say that we have Out of the 8 that have graduated, I do know that 5 have sought gainful employment for paid employment, and 2 went on to further vocational programs to help foster their vocational skills that way. And so aside from us having official data, that's the data we have for the RISE program. If anybody else wants to add into their data metrics, go ahead.
We're last 3 years, we've been at about 90% of our graduating classes seeking employment. Most of those were full-time jobs. We're still working through. This year has obviously been extraordinarily challenging. We have seen some successes and so forth. We've had a pretty aggressive career coordinator help us with that. So years prior to that, it may not have been quite 90%. Just in case anyone's looking for a job, our career coordinator has landed an amazing position elsewhere. So we're going to probably be looking for that person in the next month or so. So if you like working really hard, long hours, and not get paid much.
So for us, so PACE at National Louis University has been around since 1986. So, but I'll speak to in the last 5 years for our employment rates, and we'll be conducting a new survey to be able to update the data. But for the last 5 years of graduates, our employment rate, and they're employed now, our employment rate is 75% of our graduates are in paid employment.
Yeah, and with employment at Shepherd's, we usually fall around 85% of our graduates each year. And with our accreditation, with each cohort that graduates, 70% or more of each student, each major, have to find a job at minimum wage or higher within a year and a half after graduating with us. So that's kind of our commitment to the student, to help them find a job in the field. It can be part-time or full-time. It just has to be at minimum wage or higher. And so we're working with students in that regard. Our most recent report, so we've been around 10 years, is from 2011 to 2018, which is around 90% of our grads found employment. Now this last year, for the first time, we did not hit 70% in our horticulture program, but we had about 6 graduate, and 2 of them had some pretty big life changes take place that deterred them from getting a job. One of them is taking care of her grandmother full-time at home as they move to a new small town. So that's the good thing is a lot of the skills she's using are skills she learned with us. The bad news is that doesn't count towards accreditation, but we have a full plan in place with them to get our numbers back up moving forward. So just a little bit of an off year, but typically overall it's about 85% our students each within the year and a half.
Awesome. We had another question. We can go in reverse order. So I'll start with Eric on this about average student to staff ratio in your classes. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So at Shepherd's, on average, it's one staff to 8 students or so, and that would be in the living areas as well. We actually, as a program, we have about 95 total staff and 95 students, but they're not always working with the students. That's including administration, business advancement, so on and so forth. But it's about 1 to 8 in the classroom, and sometimes even more than that. So depending on the class, we might have 2 or 3 paraprofessionals in a classroom. And so we're kind of as we get to know students more, we get to know those who need more support, who need less support. And so we're going to kind of move and shuffle staff around to make sure that needs are being met, where they need to be. The one area on our campus where you wouldn't see a 1 to 8 ratio would be in the apartment setting. In our apartments, we have a row of male apartments and a row of female apartments. And so we'll have a male and a female staff. It might be close to 1 to 8, but sometimes 1 to 10 or 1 to 12, but they're just bouncing in and out doing rounds. By the time a student is in the apartment on campus, they've shown the responsibility to be in that apartment. So we're not just putting students there and then checking in on them randomly if we know that they can be there by that point. So just want to clarify that, but 1 to 8 is the general.
Great. Elizabeth, do you want to speak to your class size?
Yes, absolutely. So at PACE, we accept students 1 time per year. So they start in a cohort. And historically, our cohort size is between 15 and 17. So if we're taking a look at the functional academic classes that they start off in their first year on that Monday and Wednesday, it would be one full-time member, one full-time staff member, one, a full-time instructor to that cohort. So that would be anywhere between 15 and 17 students. Every place else, that can be a significantly smaller range. So when they're independent living skills, when their instructor comes to their student apartments, it's going to be a one-on-one. The job coaching would be a one-on-one, but the actual functional academic classes would be with their cohort. So it would be 1 to 15 or 17.
Great. Ours is pretty similar to that. We do a cohort style for our students, and so our cohorts are usually between 8 and 12 students, and so that would be them within their RISE specific classes would be 8 to 12 per professor. When they go into their traditional undergraduate class, we have a student advisor who goes with them. We call them a learning advisor, and so this is a undergraduate student of the university who's paid to help our student in terms of note-taking or test proctoring or helping them understand the material. And so that would be a one-on-one. Sometimes we do 2 students to 1 advisor if there's 2 people taking that class, 2 of our students taking that class. Job coaching would be a one-on-one, and then we have resident advisors as well. Again, traditional undergraduate students who are paid to assist our students within the dorms. And that would be a 2 to 1 student to advisor ratio for us.
For ELSA, our average class size is probably hovers between 9 and 12, depending on the year. The incoming group is 15, typically. Sometimes a little bigger, sometimes a little smaller. They tend to go through that first year together. It's not a formal cohort because there can be exceptions. If somebody has a really high math ability, they might not take our fundamental math class, etc. As year 2, 3, and 4 evolve, then it becomes more like a traditional college experience. So there's a lot of mix and match, and not everybody has the same classes and so on. There's we call our resident advisors community advisors, and we tend to go 1 to 7 for that. We have 8 or 9 adjunct faculty that support the 4 of us who are with the program. Well, 3 of us that are full-time and me, I'm part-time with them. And then the traditional classes on Elmhurst tend to be 17 to 24 in size. So we don't really have giant classes anywhere in the school. Do you want me to go ahead and hit that next question, Andrew?
Yeah, please do.
Since I'm already talking.
The question that we can all just go through this is, do we help our students to acquire any adult services after graduating with us? And so Tim, go ahead and speak on that for you.
Yeah. We have had relationships with DRS. They obviously don't fund my students that come to the ELSA program because we're a certificate program, though they have worked with some of my degree-seeking students who qualify for their benefits. We do have an agent that's assigned to work with us. We tend to do a lot of our placements and job coaching support and all those kinds of things internally, and then we might encourage families, like, obviously Ray Graham is an organization that's similar to that works in the DuPage area that supports some of our alumni, kind of after a handoff over time, maybe with some of that life coaching and things like that. We try to handle those things, and we allow our alums to come back and visit with us. We have like a formal meeting every month, and then we have a social event we try to sponsor for our alums once a month as well. So there's always opportunities to come back and work with us or come back and work with a career person if students are struggling in those kinds of things. So they still have a relationship with us even when they graduate. And with our recent grads, we always try to stick with them until we get them something. We tend not to give up on them unless they absolutely don't or can't. Like Eric's situation with that student, we had something similar, except it was knee surgeries. So she wasn't really able to get into the job market until 8 months after she graduated, but then we landed her a position. So we continue to work with them, but we'll encourage them to work with DRS if they want to. And we, like I said, we've had relationships with those folks in our program.
Yeah, for the RISE program, we don't have particular relationships with any of the adult services specifically linked to us. What we like to do in our program is to partner with the families to help support those systems, because we realize that they are the ones that are going to be helping their student after being with us. And so we will help to give them the information to pursue those opportunities. But ultimately for us, if the family's not involved with that and the student isn't able to negotiate those types of things on their own, we really think that they're going to be the ones driving that force. And so we try to give them the information as much as possible, and help work with them and partner with them in those things. But we as a program don't have relationships specifically with those institutions.
Yep. So, so very similar to what Drew said. And so while we don't have specific connections with adult services, as I shared earlier, we have our own services once they've completed the certificate program with PACE Ahead and PACE Beyond. We also launched this year the Alumni Advisory Board. And so I'm really committed to continuing to assist our alumni in growing in their connection to their community and the leadership skills that's going to allow them to thrive. And so I'm working with the advisory board, which is made up of alumni, that to be able to take a look at what are they looking for. So we already have a social element in place for our alumni that they participate in, but what else is required? And it's going to really come from them in terms of what they need and what they're looking for. And so those are the things that we offer to our students once they've completed the program. And of course, we're here to assist and have conversation with whatever's that's needed, but connecting them directly to a service is not something that we offer.
And at Shepherd's, we have an alumni program, and then we also have a full-time employment specialist that's specifically helping students find jobs after they graduate. And so a lot of times the advisor who's been working with the student for those last 3 years they've been with us, all the knowledge that they have of the student, the family, will then get passed on to our employment specialist to help them find a job. And we're not necessarily connected to anyone. And I think most people on this call are probably from Illinois, but in Wisconsin, we have DVR and other long-term care agencies, and we can direct families towards those offices if that's something they're looking for. And the same thing if they're from Illinois. We don't have an exact contact or anything, but similar to other programs, a baseline knowledge of the services out there, where if a family really needed a contact, we could provide that, but we're not specifically connected. We work specifically with from our employment specialist and our alumni program to the student and the family in that way.
Great. I have one last question for that we have prepared. We're coming up on our end of time here. So if you have any further questions that you want us to cover, please put them in the chat. We'll try and cover them before we close our time here. But as we're talking about preparing students to come to post-secondary programs, I'd love to hear from each of us what would be the makeup of a good fit student? Who would be the ideal candidate for your program, for our educators to be setting their students up for success within your programs? And so I can go ahead and start with that. For us, the big thing for us is really to have a student who has a strong desire to have a college experience and to live on a college campus, to learn what independent living skills come from that, and to be a motivated student. That's really a main priority for us. Another big thing for us is partnerships with our parents and having parents who are on board with the students and walking alongside them. That's another really big thing for us as we look at students coming into our program. And then ultimately, we want our students to be able to have self-determined goals. We want them to be having goals outside of the college program, not just coming to college just to be in college, but be able to learn how to live independently and want to be independent afterwards. Our students are only going to be successful if they really have that drive to be successful in those areas of independent living and vocational skills. And so those are really the students that are the ideal candidates for our program.
So I'll go next. So it seems like I want all of Judson students. So all of his. So really, I think what you're going to find, what we're all looking for inside of a post-secondary program, and just to highlight, is really what any student, whether or not they're coming to a college experience program or not, is what do they want? And so if they want to live on their own, great. We're live independently, more than just live on their own, but live independently, to be able to have the skills necessary to navigate through life, really makes a tremendous difference. What that looks like, what we've pointed to earlier on, is that emotional independence. We're located downtown Chicago, so being able to navigate, to be able to manage on some level, and again, our program provides support for that as well, based upon where they're at, but someone who is going to be able to be self-aware enough to be able to know that we're here to assist them if they're in a situation that they're uncomfortable with. So that is really the big pieces that makes all of the difference. Everything else is manageable or workable or a program that will fit for them, but ultimately it really comes down to, do they want it? And so then I see the question, what's the average cost for your respective programs? So I'll answer that since I'm here. And so the cost of our program is $45,000 per academic year. And so we are on a quarter system. So our students go to school fall, winter, and spring. They're off for the summertime. And so that includes the housing and food plan, as well as the academic cost. What funding options are available? Drew mentioned that as a comprehensive transition program. Our families are eligible to apply. They are able to apply for the FAFSA, and if they're eligible for federal grants, they're able to utilize that to be able to assist with in covering the cost of the program. Certainly private pay, we have internal scholarships available as well that our families can apply for annually, and of course, if they have a 529 or ABLE plan, they're able to apply that funding as well.
I'll speak into the question about what a ideal candidate looks like. It's a very hard question to answer because all of our students are so different. I think for all of our programs, we would say the same. I think a willingness to learn and a willingness to be involved in a community is important. But on the flip side of that, as part of being both a service provider and even as educators, you'll see a student's potential before they do. That happens so often. And the struggle for me being at a lot of these college fairs is we have that title college, and a lot of our families walk by and their students see the name college and initially keep walking because they think it's not an option, or, oh, my son's not going to college. And my encouragement would be that to push families to at least look at our programs, because I think there's more services that are provided that you might not see right away before exploring. So what I'm saying is we've had students who didn't think they were going to be a candidate for our program. They were really scared the first time they came to campus. And those have been some of our most successful students that we've had through the program. And so as daunting as it can be to see that word college, and for some families not to put two and two together, I think it's really important to explore those opportunities out there in regards to all four of our programs. So that's just one of my things that I wanted to mention. As far as the cost goes, our cost is $48,700 a year, and there's different ways that families can pay for that. The first is state agencies or programs, and so we actually have had a few students from Illinois use their DRS funds towards our program. That's a select few, and they had to go through an appeal process for that. But outside of Illinois, if they're in other states, different, whether it's in Wisconsin, DVR, or long-term care agencies, they can use towards the program. We give a needs-based scholarship to students. So that's our internal scholarship. We have external scholarships listed on our website. Students can use their Social Security income and just use that to go towards their room and board as they'd like. And then FAFSA, as we mentioned earlier. So grants, Shepherd's College, we work with full loans. So whether it's student loans or Parent Plus loans, we'll work with those as well, and federal work study. So.
Andrew, I'm going to go because I got to go in a minute here. So in terms of, there's not a whole lot of difference as far as what the student we want is going to fit. The enthusiasm piece is a big part of that, wanting to come to college. I feel like between the four of us, for example, it really becomes about fit for the environment. Do you want the city? Do you want the Judson experience? Do you want the Wisconsin experience? You know, each of us have a nice campus. They have an interesting, unique fit. So there's that sort of abstract thing that's hard to decide. you know, what's best for them. But our student wants to come and have the 4-year college experience, you know, similar to RISE. They want to be in the dorms. They want to see the sports, or be in my school. You can actually participate in college athletics if you're capable of that. You have to be able to compete at a Division III level, but I do have students who are in cross country this past year. I have a football player, I've got a men's golfer. So, you know, we have sort of in roots to some of that stuff in addition to our clubs and organizations. We have a very traditional college experience at Elmhurst, and we hope the student wants that too. Someone always has to ask about the money, and so we're all pretty similarly priced, except for RISE, which I think is like 3 times as much as we are, if I remember that right, because of the iPads. I'm remembering that wrong on purpose. But we're about 47 when you round up a little bit right now, full-time with housing. We do have part-time, which runs more like 15 a year without housing. You can come full-time and not live on campus, which is about 37 a year. And then we have access to FAFSA in the exact same way. So federal funds, if you qualify, no loans with us through the feds. And then we do a scholarship at the school based on the EFC, the same information we use to determine the FAFSA. And that could be as little as $500 or as much as $13,000 in a given year, depending on the family situation. And then, you know, we use 529 plans and anything else you can find externally in terms of funding.
Yeah, and I can answer for the RISE program, our costs. Our institution has, since our onset, has seen that our program is a benefit to the Judson community, so much so that they have decided to discount our tuition for our students to a certain degree. And so our tuition is $26,060 for the entire year. That's tuition fees, room, and board. And so that includes all fees that would incorporate the education of the students. Any extracurriculars would be an extra cost to them. But we are a comprehensive transition program as well. And so students may qualify for the Pell Grant and the MAP Grant if they're Illinois residents through the free application for federal student aid. And so we also offer internal scholarships. We have many different generous donors who have donated specific scholarship funds for our program specifically so that our students have an opportunity to have a college experience. And so there's many different options for families that may not think or may not have been prepared to send their child off to college. As Eric was talking about, sometimes our families don't think that their students will be able to go to college, and so they may not be saving for that. And so that's where we land in terms of that. And so as we kind of round off our time together, I'd just love for each of us to go through some of the opportunities that our educators here can offer to their students of how they can get more information about our programs. And so I'm going to send out links to our websites and our contact information so you can contact us specifically about setting up different tours or giving information to families. For the RISE program, we have 3 preview days coming up next fall. We are planning on being on campus in the fall, and so our preview days are scheduled to be on campus and have people come and visit our campus. And so that's September 28th, November 6th, and January 5th, or 15th, I'm sorry. We also do personal tours for families, and we do tours for school districts too, so you can contact me and I can schedule a tour for you. And then we also do phone calls and Zoom meetings for those who are further away and for those who may not be comfortable with coming to the campus. Somebody asked if we'll have all students on campus in the fall. That is the university's plan right now, is to have all of our traditional undergraduate students come in the fall living on campus. We're making the appropriate plans to make sure that we do that in a safe way. But we are planning on starting in August 25th is when our first day of class is. So anybody else, you can tell us a little bit about opportunities for students to get more information. Tim, I'll let you go first because I know you got to get going.
Yeah, I got a 2:30. So we are planning to be online, or excuse me, on campus as well. We're definitely, you know, in phase 4, which is the magic phase schools need to be in to have smaller gatherings of 50. That's going to complicate things for athletics and stuff. We're still sort of working all that out, but we've done a lot on campus in terms of ventilation, UV lighting, and all kinds of things to make the campus a safe environment in terms of social distancing. Because we're small and we have small classes, that isn't as hard to solve. We may employ some hybrid usage, and right now specific to ELSA, we're trying to make it a choice things because we adapted online fairly quickly. We used Blackboard. We already had it in place before. We were using Blackboard for a number of things in the program, so it wasn't really that terribly hard to adapt using Collaborate, which is the online system Blackboard has. So we have it available, and so we're allowing it to be a choice if students, because you know a lot of people in our population can be compromised. We do want to make it available, and it's same for our faculty for that matter too. We want to have that option available to teach online, those kinds of things. So it's going to probably have some hybrid qualities to the semester, and I think that's true for the overall college as well. If things change, you know, the state says what the state says, we're going to adhere to whatever the regulations are. Hopefully they won't. You know, right now Illinois is in a pretty good shape at this point in time, but the rest of the country doesn't look so hot. So we'll see. But for now, as long as we're in phase 4 and beyond, we're going to be on campus in some way, shape, or form. And he's going to have my contact information, and the ELSA information is going to be in there. We are planning to do 3 fall on-campus preview days, but we'll probably have online versions like we've already done 2 to be accessible this way. All things are going to be both places, on campus and online this fall is how it's looking. But I have to boogie, I have another appointment, so it was a pleasure spending time with all you all. Whatever they say bad about me when I leave, it's not true. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
I will go ahead and address some of the questions that were coming in for RISE as well, and then I'll let you guys kind of finish up with those questions too. One of them was, Tim spoke about guardianship within the ELSA program. We don't have a requirement for RISE that you be your own guardian. In those, we do ask the families to disclose what the guardianship status of their student is, just for us, for safety reasons, when we go to advocate for them within medical field or financially and different things like that. And so we do need to know that information, but it's not a requirement that our students be their own guardian there. In terms of what the program might look like, if we do need to go virtual in case of a second wave of COVID-19, during the first wave, we started using Google Classroom for our format. We found that a lot of our students were able to adapt to that pretty quickly. And so as an institution, we have gotten a package for the Google Classroom, and that's what the RISE program specifically will be using in our courses if we need to go that route. Right now, that's not our plan, but we do have that as a backup. Obviously, we need to have 2, 3, 4, 5 different backups in this time. And so that's our goal. Our institution uses eLearn. We found that that's a little cumbersome for our students, and so we're utilizing the Google Classroom as it's a little bit more intuitive.
Yep, just to add on to that, Drew, right, so we're really all in a place of preparation on what's going to show up and what's going to look like. So what we've done is we've taken a look at our curriculum, since we do offer a variety of different elective classes that can lead to different vocational tracks. And so we paid close attention to what are the type of electives we're going to offer, making sure that all of our curriculum could be moved over virtually if something happened inside of a second wave. We were successful to quickly navigate to online, and so we've been offering our program virtually for not only the spring but also during the summertime. So we will be virtual as well. So we are really confident that we'll be able to navigate and whatever is required to be able to continue to support our students and really offer a level of consistency at a time of such uncertainty, which has proven to be incredibly important for our students, really for all of us. As for the guardianship piece, it is not a requirement for our students to be their own guardian. Very similar to Drew, because we are so wrapped around our students, it's incredibly important that we know, so that we know how to navigate with whatever that shows up in those 3 years, in that 3-year time period. In terms of additional options, we will continue to offer a hybrid as well. So we'll have virtual online tours available for full schools or full bodies. We will be opening up to on-campus tours. However, we're going to limit them to one-on-one. So we'll only be one family at a time to ensure that we keep well under any kind of safety number. We also offer a college summer experience program. It will be virtual. It's in August for 4 days, Mondays Monday through Thursday from 9 to 3. And it gives an opportunity to, whether it is the PACE program or Shepherd's or Judson or ELSA, whatever college program that your college experience program your students are looking for, it gives them a taste of what it would look like to be a college experience student. So we do offer that as well. And of course, you'll have our contact information. So if you have any questions about or want to schedule something specifically, you'll have it to be able to reach out to me. And thank you so much for your time today.
Elizabeth, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
For in the spring as well in the fall, if there's a second wave, do students go home then, or do they stay in their dorms or apartments, or how does that work? And if you're doing a hybrid, will they live in the dorms also, or do they live at home and just do the learning part?
Yep. During this first wave, when it first hit, we had all of our students go home. We had no idea what it was going to look like or how long it was going to last. So we had them all move out quickly and to be able to move them home as quickly as possible. Right now, in terms of what the housing will look like in this coming year, really depends on, and we haven't signed the contract yet for our housing for this upcoming year, because we want to be able to put as many caveats, Jenny, that you just pointed to be able to make sure that if our families, for whatever reason, have to go back home, that they're not locked into a financial commitment that they're not going to be using. So we want to be sure that we are as fiscally responsible, that if it ends up being hybrid, but it's from home or they're at their dorms, that we have as much flexibility in that lease as possible, that it's definitely options we're looking for.
All right, real quick, I know we're on our time here, but Shepherd's is opening this fall, August 15th. It would take me a long time to go through how we're opening. The short story is we're going to do phased openings. So we're going to have somewhere around 90-ish students next year, we're anticipating. And so we bring in cohorts of about 36. And so year one is going to come on August 15th, and about a week and a half later, cohorts years 2 and 3 will be coming in as well. We have a lot of different practices in place for social distancing and safety. If you go to our website, shepherdscollege.edu, there's a bar on the top that says COVID-19. If you click that, it will give you the whole list of how we are opening our program next year. We finished this year with e-learning through the use of Google Classroom and Zoom and Flipgrid and a bunch of other stuff that our educators know way more about than I do. And then this semester, our students are going to go home right after Thanksgiving and finish with 3 weeks of e-learning into Christmas, and then have another phased opening coming back in January, similar to what we're doing in August. As far as admissions opportunities, we had 2 virtual preview days for the first time this summer. We anticipate to have more. We don't have the dates released yet, but as you have, or any educators also, but even parents and families, we can do personal virtual preview days together through our online platform through the use of Zoom. We can do on-campus tours fairly soon here, so with social distancing as well. And I can have more details on that as families and educators reach out and they would like. So there you go.
Great, thank you. And so I just wanted to thank all of you for attending our educator fair today. I hope that the information was very helpful to you. I hope that if you have any questions, that you'll reach out to us individually. Like I said, I will follow up with an email that has all of our contact information and our links to our websites and things like that. And so I thank you so much for attending. And if you have any further questions, like I said, reach out to us. We are more than happy to answer any questions that you may have about our program specifically. We hope you have a great rest of your day.
Bye.